And we are starting. Welcome everyone. My name is Isabella. I am the program manager at Open GovHub. Open GovHub is a dynamic meeting place in Washington, D.C., where I'm actually at right now. And Global Integrity was one of the co-founders in 2012. I have here with me Jorge Florez, who is the Fiscal Governance Manager at at Global Integrity, and currently we're all working remotely. He's in Colombia, and he will tell you all about an amazing new tool that Global Integrity has developed, which is the Fiscal Governance and Anti-Corruption Database. So without further ado, I'll let Jorge take it away, tell him more about the database and Global Integrity as well.
Perfect. Thank you, Isabella. And thank you all for joining us today. I'm going to be talking about three things, but let me share my screen first. Hi, can everyone see my screen? And it's the slides, right? Sorry, just fixing some technical things. Cool. My colleague Carlos, who has been working with me in this project and with us in this project, will be sharing some links in the chat where you can see the slides, the database, and some of the other things that we're going to be talking about. Cool. So basically, we're going to talk today about the Global Integrity's COVID-19 Fiscal Governance and Anti-Corruption Database. We developed this tool based on several things, but before we get to that, I'm going to just do a brief explanation about Global Integrity and the work that we do, then talk about the database, where it came from and what it is, run through some examples on how to use it, and then have some conversation with you about things that you would like to look in the database so we can try to look for some things and see what we find. And then we would like to hear your feedback and use your feedback to keep improving the database. So about Global Integrity, I think that most of us in the call know about Global Integrity, so I'm going to be kind of quick. So basically, we support governance reformers and change agents around the world that seek to address corruption and improve the use of public resources. And we do this in two ways, working with a country level and with partners to develop tailored approaches to address relevant challenges and using adaptive approaches, and then using evidence from that work to influence how other people in the space, in the governance space, in the fiscal governance, anti-corruption, and open government spaces carry out their work. Our theory of change is quite simple. It basically states that if we provide tailored support to governance, reform, and change agents that are focused on relevant challenges in their context, we will be able to distill lessons to learn and to shape the approaches that these actors are using, including how to bring about policies and make sure that those policies are implemented. And then, based on that, these change agents will be better able to address those challenges and other similar ones that arise in the future. And we can use that evidence to help them operate more effectively or more adaptively, and to also shape how other stakeholders and agents support these change agents. We basically work around 4 types of partnership approaches. They are research, so we conduct a research on what is happening and how to address relevant challenges on the anti-corruption, open government, and service delivery spaces. We support the strategy and implementation by those change agents, be it agents at the country level, at the global level, or at the regional level. We also help these agents to strengthen their networks by facilitating dialogue, facilitating learning exchanges, and other types of things. And we also engage in advocacy to try to use lessons from this work to influence other relevant stakeholders. So now getting more into the COVID and the whole situation. So we started a response to COVID by doing an exercise in which we chatted with more than 70 partners from the Open Gov Hub to country level and regional partners. And we identified several needs that they had. Some of them were really interested and keen in learning more about what other people are doing, how they are trying to address the challenges, uh, how they are working on this emergency. So we began to explore how to do that, and based on this, we have developed a couple of initiatives. I'm just going to mention some of them here. One is the Account for COVID initiative, in which basically we're facilitating dialogue across partners in Africa that are trying to address challenges related to COVID-19. In the chat, you will find a link to these slides, and in the slides, there are links to all the things that I'm saying. So for instance, in this Account for COVID initiative, I'm just gonna plug some publicity. We're gonna have the next session on August 12th. Please join us. The link is in the Account for COVID. The link for registering is in the Account for COVID initiative link in the slides. This has been really good. We already had one event in which we heard people from several countries across Africa. And now we're going to have people from Kenya, from Zimbabwe, from Mali, and from Uganda sharing their experiences and their lessons that they have learned how to fight corruption in these times and with this context. Other things that have been happening have been the different efforts for promoting collaboration among Open Gov Hub members, and many of you are part of those things. So I won't say much about it. And finally, getting to the thing that brings us together today, we developed the COVID-19 Fiscal Governance and Anti-Corruption Database. You can see the link to the database in the slides, but it's also a simple bit.ly /COVID-GovDB. So what is the Fiscal Governance and Anti-Corruption Database? Basically, as mentioned, many partners say that they would like to see what other people were doing, what resources are there, what is happening, what is the thinking, the guidelines, the kind of what's happening. So we built on the work of others, such as the Center for International Private Enterprise, Transparency and Accountability Initiative. I saw a couple of colleagues from TAI in the room, and they will be also sharing a very interesting resource in the coming weeks. So stay tuned for that. Also, work by the Open Contracting Partnership, the International Budget Partnership, the Global Anti-Corruption Blog, and the COVID-19 Conflict and Governance Evidence Summaries, which are pretty interesting. And they are developed by the Institute of Development Studies based on the work of Heather Marquette and some of her colleagues. Then this is a resource that we also update on a weekly basis. And you can see an overview of the resource in the link that is in the slides and also in the chat. So I'm gonna go to that so we can get a better sense of it. Basically, sorry, no, I'm gonna do something before. I'm gonna get back here. I'm gonna tell you a bit about how the database works. So basically, the database has 14 columns or 14 categories, variables that can be used for seeing the resources and for filtering the information. The first 5 columns are simple and descriptive, are what is the title of the resource that is in the database, a very brief summary that kind of gives you the gist of the piece, what it's about, what it says, something general, so you can see if it's worth getting in or not. Then a link to the resource in whatever it is, in the pages of organizations or whatever. Then who is the producer of that resource, and then the dates of the resource. So when the resource was published. Several of these do not have date because some resources are just posted without dates, but most of them have. Then you're gonna have 3 additional columns that say more about what's the geographical focus of the resource. So whether it's something at the, sorry, I missed one. We will have a column that it's about the type of the resource that is in the database. So you can see if it's a webinar, if it's a blog post, if it's an article, And another column that says whether or not it is part of a recurring series. So for instance, if it's a part of a newsletter that is published monthly, if it's part of a series of webinars, so if it's more than one piece. Some of the most common resources that are in the database are blogs and articles, and also repositories. There are a ton of repositories. Then we can get to the three additional variables that I mentioned that explain or give an overview of where the resource, the geographical focus of the resource is. So you can filter it, seeing if what the level of the resource, the level that is covering the resource is, and this can be global, national, or regional. So you can see that most of the resources there are global, but we also have 189 that are about specific countries or regions. And then you can also see here in the slides the distribution of those resources that we have in the database. So there are 55 about Latin America, 53 about Sub-Saharan Africa, and so on. Then there are other 4 variables that enable you to filter based on what the resource is about. So we develop a set of tags and started tagging each resource based on 4 criteria. One is what a stage of the resource flows or of the resource flow it covers. So you can see and filter there things related to aid, to budgets, to illicit assets, to procurement, to service delivery, and to tech. Then you have another way of filtering the resources, which is a focus on what type of factor the resource talks more about. And it can be civil society, it can be about donors, it can be about government, it can be about media, or it can be about like open government partnership collaborations. The other 2 are the governance tag, which is basically what type of concept the article refers to, or the resource refers to, in terms of items related to governance issues. So you can see accountability, adaptive management, corruption, open data, participation, transparency, policy response, and donor response. And then there is a final variable that we develop, which is basically why we included the resource in the database. So in addition of having the relevant tags, so talking about the resource flow stage, the relevant actors, or the governance issues, we also thought that it will be useful for the people using the database to see what the kind of action the resource was trying to do. So we have several tags here. One is call to action, other one is civic response, other one is complaints about like corruption cases or things that are happening, experiences, which are cases, be it at the country or analysis of several cases, lessons that are distilled from the work, recommendations by global actors, for instance, recommendations of how to use open government partnership to act on the COVID-19 crisis, then risks that are raised at different levels, whether it's a talk piece or if it's a trending issue. So based on that, we can go back to the overview, definitions and overview. You will find the links in the chat and in the slides. So here you can find specific definitions for what the tags mean in each of the categories. So for the resource flow stage tags, you can see here the different tags and the definitions. For the actor tags the same, for the governance tag the same, and for the why was this included, you can also see that. And in the next tab, you can see an overview of the resources. So for instance, right now the database has 373 resources in it, and you can see what type of resources are there, from what level, in what level are they focused on, and then if they are regional, what region are they covering, what countries do we see resources that are, in which countries the resources are focused. So for this one, for the region and for the national, you will see that in the columns, for instance, if the resource is global, then it doesn't have any tag for national, regional, or for the country itself, because it's not focused on any region. And the same for the, and that's it. For the regional, for the regional, you can see which country, because it's a whole region, like East Africa or Sub-Saharan Africa. So it's not tagged by the country. And then when you get national is when you get to what's happening in different countries. For the technical tags, you can see that the thing that is most common in the resource is the procurement tag, then the service delivery tag, and issues related to budgets. There are several others in aid, illicit assets, and tech. The actor tags, there are a lot of things about civil society and how they are responding, and about governments and how they are responding. And there are some others about other relevant issues, other relevant actors. Then on the governance tag, you can see that transparency and accountability, corruption, and open data are kind of the top 4 in that category. But something important to say about the technical tag, the actor tag, and the governance tag is that each resource can have a couple of these tags. So for instance, you can have one resource that talks about procurement and budgets, and then in the actor tags that it talks about civil society and government, and for the governance tag that is focused on corruption and open data. We will get to examples about this in a moment. And then you can also see why the piece was included. So we had talk piece, recommendations, and experiences as the most common things in the database. So now let's dig into the database. So are you seeing right now the database? Can I get a confirmation? I'm not sure for the screen sharing. Perfect. So this is how the database looks like. We put it in Airtable because it enables like easy filtering of the resources. So for instance, let's say that I'm trying to look something on budgets in Sub-Saharan Africa. So I can go and look at the region, add filter, select the option for Sub-Saharan Africa, and then go to the resource flow stage, add filter, and look for things related to budgets. So I will get that in the database. We have 21 resources that are focused on budgets in Sub-Saharan Africa. And you can see that most of them, if you see the level variable, are national cases. There are just a couple of regional ones. So let me give you another example. Then to do another search, you need to clear the filters. So now let's say that I want to see what types of call to action are being made by people. So I will add filter. I will say call to action. And then I want to, well, I see that there are 24 call to action resources that are tagged as call to action. Sorry, my mouse is getting crazy. Okay, where am I? Sorry guys, this is a technical difficulty. Yeah, it's back. And then let's say that I see that there are 24 things that are a call to action, like calling governments, calling donors, calling whomever to take some specific action. And then I want to see which one of those are related to both corruption and accountability. So I will go to creating the filter. Then I will say that has all of the tags that I want to look for, in this case, accountability and corruption. And then I will get 6 resources that are a call to action on the IMF, on sorry, sorry, the mouse. I'm using the mouse in my computer, and it's not that easy. In general, on transparency and accountability and anti-corruption measures, in solutions to counter corruption, in challenges, in the transparency for accountability fight, and finding money to fight COVID, and in budget justice. And these ones are at different levels. One is global, the one for the IMF. There are some in North America, and Sub-Saharan Africa, and Europe and Central Asia. But okay, I think that's a lot of me talking, and I usually don't like to be the one talking that much. So now we would like to do, before we get into questions and more, we would like to do a couple of exercises. So can anybody let us know what they would like to try to find in the database, what they are interested in? So a volunteer.
Or just turn on your microphone and preferably even your camera so that it's a little more expressive.
Isabella, it's hard to hear you.
Yeah, my microphone is not so good.
Sarah, what Isabella was saying is that it will be good if one of you can turn on the camera and let us know an example of something that they would like to find in the database, so we can go through it and like do a couple of examples of what people would like to look for. Do you want to volunteer?
I can volunteer, yes. So I am interested, I was poking around a little bit, and I'm interested in if there is a way to search using a gender lens, or if there are any fields around gender sensitivity. I didn't see that.
No, but that's something that we can include. It will require some work, but in this iteration, we didn't do it. This started as an initial an internal resource, and then we publish it. But the idea is to keep improving it. So your feedback is really good, and we will take that on board.
Hello, this is this is Robert Thomas in DC, and I'm curious to find out if it sheds light on whistleblowers or otherwise exposing bad actors, people who are defrauding COVID aid. Anything on whistleblowers or exposing bad actors?
We don't have a tag as such for whistleblower, but some way that you can do is taking a look at the why was this included variable, and then filtering for complaints, and you will see a lot of journalistic investigations and kind of complaints about the government not doing a good job, or despilfarring money, like giving money away or engaging in corrupt acts. So for instance, you will see with complaints, there are 45 records that refer to that. Maybe something, I don't know, you can see if it's in procurement, in budgets. Maybe let's look at one that shouldn't be that popular, which is illicit assets. So what's happening in terms of illicit assets? And you can get a couple of things from Europe and from Latin America and at the global level on illicit assets and complaints in the database in relation to COVID. But that's a very good filter, a very good thing. So maybe we can see if that can be a governance tag as such. So thank you for that comment. What was this useful, Robert? Robert, was this filtering and getting to these examples useful?
I'm not filtering now, but I will later. I will soon.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else? Another thing that people will be interested? Okay, I see Yuan saying that he would like to see corruption in defense sector contracts, bribery or pricing, underpricing, and if there are large number of countries not showing such cases, this might well be a case we didn't. Why didn't the dog bark? This is difficult, which might be why there are information gaps. So the best that we can do at the moment, because we have sector, but not really, I don't think we have come across many defense things, will be to add a filter for service delivery, which is kind of getting to a sector lens, and then to look for ones that are focused on service delivery and procurement, and combining those two things, we get 83 records on different things related to procurement and service delivery, particular sectors. And maybe we can even go a bit further and add the filter for experiences. And we will get 15 cases of this happening, or how people are trying to address the issues on procurement in specific sectors. So we will have things from Honduras, Ukraine, Colombia, Moldova, United Kingdom, other global and more like kind of talk pieces, resources, and different things that we can use to try to dig further. But from your comment, I get that something that might be interesting is to try to tag, when useful, what kind of sector the resource is referring to, if it's defense, health, education, or something like that. Will that be useful and kind of help you to get to where you want, Yuan? It's okay to reply in the chat. Okay, we will take a look. That will require some work, but we will take a look into it. Great. Anybody else before we get to specific questions and we can chat a bit more? And I stop talking that much.
Hey, Jorge. I joined through another way to have better audio, but I do have a question. You actually showed something really cool, which is multiple filters. As someone who builds the database, what would you say is the best utilization of multiple filters if you're looking for something specific? Say, I want to know what has been written on procurement in Ukraine, but I don't necessarily want to narrow down my choices so much. How many filters is too much or just enough?
I think it depends on what you're looking for. For instance, with the example that you were saying, if I'm focused on Ukraine, I will add the filter and then look for Ukraine in the countries. Mm-hmm. Oh, these ones are not in. Okay, this is something that we can improve, and is making this in alphabetical order, but I'm gonna look for Ukraine with the select an option thing. So we have 4 resources about Ukraine, and all of them are related to procurement. So in this case, with the search that you were thinking, this will provide you with the answer. But let's say that you are doing something that it's broader. So let's try to see, for instance, that I'm interested in Latin America. So I will check Latin America. And then I want to see what's happening on procurement and budgets. So I will add the filter that has both procurement and budgets, and I can get 14 resources. So this might already be filtering enough, but then I might want to just see what experiences are, so like specific cases. So we can get to 3 specific cases of a procurement and budgets in Latin America. And this will be like really good. Like I found something in Chile, in Honduras, and something at the regional level that I can use, and that provides me a good entry point into the issue. So I guess that to answer your question, the number of filters will be relevant based on what you're looking for. So
Thank
I
you.
see more movement in the chat.
Yes.
So yeah, Ivan, make that mining. Cool. So that kind of keeps going to the point of sectors. So we will try to work out if we can go a bit more deep on that, and taking care of extractive issues, for instance, and including more of the resources in the database. Then there is a comment by Alison when she says, I'm curious to hear how the global integrity team is using this incredible database and how you might analyze or interpret the output or a particular search. Well, Alison, I will say that this is more to enable us to stay up to date with things, to strengthen our resources or communications of things. For instance, one of the examples that we put in there is that I recently wrote a blog post on OGP, anti-corruption, open data in the COVID era, and like taking lessons from what's happening before and how things could move forward. So what I did for that one was that I went to the actor tag and I looked for things that were related to OGP. And then in the governance tag, I took things that were related to corruption and to open data, because that was the blog post. And I got these resources, these 7 resources that are like key things that are happening, and that the conversation around open data, anti-corruption, and OGP resources that can inform that conversation. So I used this and read about them. I also did a filter, like, okay, in addition to OGP specific, what is happening. So taking out the OGP filter, I can see that what is happening, at least from what we're getting, is that the issues of accountability and anti-corruption have a lot of resources, but I need to revise this filter. Give me a second. So has both. So it's something related to using open data to fight corruption. So it has all of corruption and open data, and I clear this one and this one. And something is weird. Give me 1 second, please. Okay. Sorry. Add filter. So the governance tag has all of corruption and open data. And there is something weird there. Sorry, guys. Let me take a look at that at some point. So I'm just going to say has any of. And there are many things related to accountability and open data, and you can use that. Any other questions? I'll need to revise that tag.
We've got about 20 minutes. So if you have any specific questions about this, then please do ask. And at the very end, I'll have a very brief poll for all of you. But yeah, I'll let Jorge take it away. And please, if you are not ready for a camera, you've got 20 more minutes for a group photo, just FYI.
Perfect. Well, but I think that we can move from the examples. Then maybe if you guys have any more questions, or if not, I would like to ask you a couple of questions. So do you have any more questions on the database, how to use it? I'll take the silence as no one having any more questions. So we would like to hear from you. We would like to hear where you have tried to use the database, and if you have used it for what, or what have you found. Some ideas like the ones that have been coming up about how you think we can improve the database. For instance, we already heard about the fact that adding some tag or some way of filtering for whistleblowing or this kind of experiences, the gender lens that Sarah mentioned, and the specific sectors, specifically talking about defense and extractives, for instance. So looking for to hear from you. So how else do you think that it will be good to improve this database? Okay, I see that there is a gap in resources regarding to gender in the database. So beyond the tag. Okay. Sarah, in fact, there is one important thing that I have not mentioned, and is that we are open to receiving things from people and putting them in the database. So if you have resources that are related to gender and COVID that are really key and we have not seen, please share them with us, and we will make sure to add them to the database and to thank you for that in our social networks, communications, and such. And the same for all. And for sharing those resources, you can send them to the email info@globalintegrity.org, or Carlos, if you can please add the link to the form in the chat. We have a form for getting feedback or new resources where you can just list the resources that you think will be good to add to the database, and leave us your name and additional information if you want us to thank you, or if not, you can do it anonymously too. Okay, I see some more movement in the chat. So I'm gonna, okay, so Brian asked about corruption regarding education. The closer you can get to that is taking the tag for service delivery, filtering by that, and then filtering by corruption in the governance tag. If you do those two things, you will get resources that are related to service delivery. In there, we were putting everything that was kind of sectoral, but some of the thing that is, one thing that is coming from this brown bag is the need to be more specific with the kind of sectors that we are seeing and we are finding. So thanks for the question, Brian. Then
I can help with the chat too, if it's good. You have
one
more
question
from Robert, and he's asking, have you considered capturing information about the value of contracts of interest and putting those values in a quantitative field?
Perfect. Thank you, Courtney. It's great to hear that you have used the database and that the tool guide tag has been really helpful. We might be reaching out to you so you can send a good word about it and help us continue sharing this and improving it. Robert says that if we have considered capturing information about the value of contracts of interest and putting those values in a quantitative field. That might be tricky, Robert, because there are several resources that talk about corruption overall in a sector or in a country. There are others that are reviewing thousands of contracts, so it's different. It's difficult to find the amount, and there are many cases where it's not like about a particular contract for a particular amount, but like a trend, like for instance, not using bids, but just awarding the contract directly. So there are many different dynamics. So we can try to see how to be more specific on what's in the kind of corruption cases that are there, but let us work on that. It's kind of tricky.
And Jorge, there's one more question from Juan Grant, who's basically pointing out that there's an issue that often emerges the weakness of multinational organizations, and he's suggesting to emphasize cross-referencing across topics, though maybe the filter that you described might be hurtful there, but you could address that one too, please.
Perfect. Ewan, I see that you left your email there, so we will reach out to you and ask more specifically because I don't quite get the point. Or if you want to just turn your mic and let us know a bit more of what you're saying.
Yeah, you can type it in the chat or turn your mic on.
Okay. Courtney, that's a good...
Is that me? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Yeah. What I mean is the problem, it's often called siloing or stovepipes, compartmentalization. And generally, I found that international organizations have a bigger problem with dealing with this. They tend to be more compartmentalized. Group X looks at one thing, Group Y another, Group Z, and they don't talk and analyze with each other. It's where there. This follows on from the gentleman's point about identifying, even if you can't really measure it. It's not easy to measure conflict of interests. That if there is an issue in one area, the chances are that there may well be an issue in another. And that was basically my point. Everything is correct, is connected. That where there is conflict of interest, there are usually failures of identifying other problems because basically the people in charge can't be trusted. Conflict of interest is a sign of widespread problems.
Perfect, and I get your point, and I think that applies to many other things, like for instance, the relationship between budgeting and contracting, and then the kind of decision-making spaces for making those decisions and how those relate to inequality. We try to push a bit by like keeping these variables that you can search with different things. So you can, for instance, say aid and procurement, and you can like kind of narrow down the database a bit in that way, but keeping connection among things. But of course, that's something that it tends to happen also when you're trying to organize information from like many countries, regions, and issues. So we are going to keep trying to improve that. For instance, we did comment about the sectors. It can be interesting because you can see, you will be able, if we add that variable, you will be able to see what's happening in budgeting for education and health, and what kind of issues are happening across those sectors or at the system level. But I totally get your point. I guess the main challenge is how to make that point easier to access or to get a sense of those things from this categorization of resources.
Yeah, it may simply be, there are limits to this because it is so difficult. It's so subjective and qualitative, and the gentleman used the word qualitative. It may be more as a risk indicator rather than necessarily a practical proposal about what to do with it. But it does, by raising the risk indicator, it alerts you to the fact that there's a good chance something does need to be done. How you do it is not as easy, because it may not, the link with money gain, financial gain, may well not be enough to justify criminal action.
That's a good point. I think that one thing that can help with this is that we have in the why was this included column, attack for risks. And that's basically like people in this country or in this region or about the behavior of this global stakeholder are raising flags that something is wrong, and you can go there and see where that is happening. And that kind of can help you identify where those kind of things are happening. But as you say, there are always limitations to this thing, and we're trying to do the best here.
I'm from a country where out and out bribery is quite rare, but certainly at top level, but conflict of interest is a real problem.
Perfect. What country are you from?
The UK, Britain.
Okay. Great, you. And so you left us your email, so we will reach out to you to continue the conversation. I'm gonna go through other comments in the chat now. So Courtney was saying that if there is a way to collect people's experience with using tools, guides especially, and where they have applied them, how they have worked, etc., that will be something really interesting, Courtney. That's something that we are, for instance, we are now doing in the OGP space. Along with the Open Data Charter, the Latin American Initiative on Open Data, the African Open Data Network, and IDRC in Canada, we are trying to do exactly that, understand what kind of tools, guides people are using to develop open data and anti-corruption commitments, and find ways to make that into something that is more usable, because we have found specific challenges that they face in using it, specific challenges that they face in putting these things in practice. So coming back to the database, and after that publicity part, I just want to say that it will be really good. I think that we will continue, as we have partners in many countries, like we have this account for COVID event too, we will continue to see what is happening, and from there trying to extract documents that can be the experiences and the lessons with the current tagging in the database that really let us know what's happening, or what experiences are happening and how they're coming about. And by digging into that, we will be able to see if they are using tools or not, and how they are communicated about it.
We've got about 8 minutes. Do you have any other burning questions?
I think that it will be a good time to send your surveys, Isabella.
Okay, I'll launch it in 1 minute, and just if you guys want to, please do turn your camera so that we can take a photo at the very end. Yeah, and then I also drop a link to the next event happening on the 12th that Jorge has mentioned for Account for COVID. So let me launch the poll in a sec, and yeah, take it away.
Cool. And please remember, in the links in the chat and everything, we have several ways to get your feedback. First, you can reach out to me, as always. You can also use the info@globalintegrity.org to send us the different resources that you consider that are relevant and that we're missing. For instance, Sarah, those on gender, that's a gap that the database currently has. And also, you can use the Google form that we have to let us know if something is not working, if you think that something will be useful, to share stories about how you're using the database, because that can also help us communicate this database, and to also send us the resources by just adding the links there, and we will work out how to input them.
I'm muted. I'm going to launch the poll now, and just so you know, also the feedback form has a space to basically alert the GI team and Jorge about new resources. So that might be the easiest and most comprehensive way to get feedback, but of course, do reach out to via email as well. Okay, and I'm ready to launch the poll, and just take a second to answer it. It's basically reiterating what we talked about. How would you use it? Would you be the one using it? Would your team be using it? Or are you just here to learn? So please take a minute to answer this, and I'll share the results. Okay. 10 more seconds. It's looking like most people are going to be using it because it's very applicable to their job, which is the top answer right now. All right, let me close it. 1, 2, 3. All right, so I think only 2 of us didn't answer, so here we go. Yeah, just really quickly, 55%. So most people are saying that this is very applicable to their job, which is awesome. And 27 said maybe, I'm interested, but I'm not sure yet. And others are saying maybe, but my team might. So that's great. And no one said, I'm just here to learn. So this is excellent. And I'll just snap a photo of this before I stop sharing it. And yeah, Jorge, do you have any closing remarks? Or are we ready to take that?
Yeah,
We totally announced early on.
No, I think that the only point is that this is an evolving effort, and more than the database is the conversation around it, how it helps your work. So please stay in touch with us. We are happy to improve it, to add more stuff that is relevant for you. So just let us know.
Yep.
And share your stories about how you use it, please. That will help us a lot.
Yeah. And actually, all right, so I'm going to snap the photo now, and Genevieve is our catalyst at the desk. She's literally like right there, so we're social distancing. We're still together, which is nice. Yeah, and very refreshing to be in an office after a while. So yeah, but let's if everyone's ready, no pressure, but turn on your camera and smile if you can. Okay, 1, 2, 3, ready? All right, awesome. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you all. Looking forward to hearing from you.
Yep, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for joining our BBL. And please look out on our calendar for the next event. And I'm going to share the one that's coming up on the 12th right now in the chat before I sign off. Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.